Okay, this video is Jack Kruse on health. Who is Jack Kruse? He's a former neurosurgeon, physician, doctor. He became very fat. I think he was like 300 something pounds, and then he lost all the weight. Here's a picture of him when he was skinny. I would say, though, I saw a video interview of him in 2021, and he looked like he had gotten fat again. He had a big double chin again. Okay, so I kind of got a feeling there's good things about him that I like. There's other things about him I'm not as impressed by. So him regaining the weight is characteristic because he eats some type of paleo diet. He wrote a book called the Epi-Paleo. Epi-Paleo is his book. He also seems to, be associated with the paleo keto carnivore group because I also heard him say good things about the carnivore diet. And I'm just letting you know, if you really look close at nutrition, there's nothing good about paleo keto carnivore for, any regular person. For refractory seizures, there's reasons to consider the ketogenic diet, but for regular people, no. His website's jackkruse.com. And there's other, fat nutrition, so-called nutrition health experts, like Andrew Weil was a real fat guy. So what do I like about him? Well, he was a former neurosurgeon. He's smart. You hear him talk. He's pretty bright. He's entertaining. He's kind of a dramatic, clear speaker. So it's enjoyable to hear him speak. And there's been other paleo keto carnivores who I've enjoyed listening to. Ivor Cummins, for example. He was interesting to hear him talk, but what I usually hear with these paleo keto carnivore types is they say some good stuff, and it's enjoyable and useful to hear that. But then they start drifting in the paleo keto diet, and they say stuff that I don't think is true or useful. He puts a big emphasis on getting sunshine, basically on living, like I said a million times, you want to live like Adam and Eve, but keep your indoor heating and plumbing. A lot of benefits to getting sunshine. He talks about how people who look at their blue screens at night, it increases their blood glucose and their insulin level. And the more pervasive technology becomes in society, the fatter and sicker and more diabetic people get. The blue screens at night from computers and cell phones, they disrupt circadian rhythms. You make less melatonin. You don't sleep so well. You get insomnia. Because of your insomnia, you're sleep deprived. Because of your sleep deprivation, it has a similar effect as psychological stress, increases cortisol and catecholamines. Those hormones increase the blood glucose level, and they increase your insulin, so they predispose to diabetes. So you push yourself towards diabetes if you don't sleep well. And looking at blue screens at night tends to do that. And he's right about that. I quickly found 2 papers consistent with that about blue light at night causing increased blood glucose and predisposition to diabetes. I also know from experience, like if I'm making videos, I'll have my little lights, they're called ring lights, on for making the video. And I've learned that I need to turn them off as soon as I'm done making the video, because if I just leave them on at night for a prolonged amount of time, I don't sleep as deeply that night. And I think it's because I don't make as much melatonin. He mentioned studies done by a guy named John Ott with children, students in a classroom, and the classrooms with fluorescent lights versus if they use natural light and sunlight with big windows. And the kids in the room with fluorescent lights had increased amount of ADHD. He also talks about mitochondria and recommends deuterium-depleted water. Stephanie Seneff, who's like this world expert on glyphosate, she also has some lecture and stuff on deuterium-depleted water. I've heard other people think that's a good thing. I don't personally have experience with it, and it might be useful. I don't know. It's always hard to tell if somebody's telling you something that's worth doing and knowing, or if it's just hype. Okay, he makes the point that he thinks saturated fat's okay and that it's made by nature and our metabolic system can handle it well. He says omega-6 cooking oils are bad because they're not made by nature and our body can't handle them well. That's actually true. Omega-6 cooking oils are a major toxin in the diet, okay? We need a small amount of omega-6 cooking oils that we can get from eating plant foods, but we don't ever need to eat any cooking oils, including olive oil. It's bad for us. He says that F- makes people docile, and that was figured out in the 1930s in Germany, and that's one of the big things it does. It makes people docile, populations, prisoners, etc., and he thinks that that's why it's so widespread. He also says that F- is an active ingredient, he believes, in antidepressants. Like you look at Prozac, what's its name? Its name is fluoxetine. And there's a lot, and having an F- on there helps it to cross the blood-brain barrier, but he thinks it also has a pacifying effect on the brain that is, depending on how you look at it, perhaps therapeutic, but it also lowers IQ, which is not good. He thinks the optimal diet should include seafood and meat. Again, he calls it Epi-Paleo. He praises the carnivore diet. He says it's real important to try to avoid living in big cities. He says people who live in big cities are not that healthy. So anyways, what's my take on him? I think he's an intelligent guy. I think he's a good speaker, and I kind of liked him. I found him likable. I bet if I met him in real life, we would be friends. But I think it's good advice that he says avoid blue screens at night to the extent that's possible. Get your sunshine as much as you can. There's a lot of benefits to that. So I think all of that is good. But I think at a fundamental level, I think the paleo keto carnivore diet is wrong. So anyways, that was my impression of studying him for a couple hours.